So it appears that in a pitch to Wisconsin voters, Joe Biden actually shafted Bernie Sanders, and he basically says, in attempt to prove that he's not a socialist, because this reporter, as you're going to see in the video, asks him, what his response is to voters who are worried about, quote, socialism. He says that, I beat the socialist. So go ahead and check this video out.
So if I could ask you, sir, even if you could address our camera directly, talk to the voters that are worried about socialism and you raising taxes.
First of all, I guarantee, I promise, I've never broken my word. Anyone making less than $400,000 will not see one single penny in their tax raised. Number two, I beat the socialist. That's how I got elected. That's how I got the nomination. Do I look like a socialist? Look at my career, my whole career. I am not a socialist. Number three, what we're going to do is make sure that we make people begin to pay their fair share. I'm not trying to punish anybody, but the idea that 19 corporations making billions of dollars pay zero in taxes, the idea you can be making $1 billion or millions of dollars like Donald Trump didn't acknowledge when he was trying to open up a casino in New Jersey. They had to show his tax returns. He paid zero taxes. And what did he say when he asked, well, how'd you feel about that? It just proves I'm smarter than everybody else. He knows these guys know how to game the system. The gaming's going to be over when I'm elected.
So obviously what Biden is trying to do here is he's trying to distance himself from the further left wing of the Democratic Party, the AOCs of the world, the Bernie Sanderses of the world, because I guess what he's trying to do is appeal to Republican voters, and so he does this. Now, Bernie Sanders is not a socialist. Now, I genuinely don't know whether or not Biden thinks that Bernie is a socialist, because if you go back and you watch in 2016 when he talks about Bernie Sanders, I really recommend you go do it right now. I think it was an interview with CNN. If my memory is serving me correctly, he basically says that, if you look at pretty much all the plans that Bernie Sanders wants, it's not really socialism, if I recall correctly. So I don't know if he really believes Bernie Sanders is a socialist. Bernie's not, and I think one of the worst mistakes he ever made, Bernie Sanders that is, was to call himself a socialist. He should have rightly flamed himself as designated himself as a social democrat, not as a socialist. He should have basically latched onto FDR's nuts and never let go. Pretty much would have been the best strategy, campaign strategy. It also would have just been more accurate because Bernie Sanders is not a socialist; he's a social democrat. So he wants, these sort of mixes of capitalism with the heavy welfare state and all that kind of stuff. He doesn't want to, fully socialize the means of production. So he's not a socialist, but it's hard to blame people who call Bernie Sanders a socialist because I can't expect them to understand the lingo that people who are political junkies are the only ones that understand. And when he self-avowed calls himself a democratic socialist, well, what are they going to say? You know what I mean? So I can't even blame them for calling him a socialist, but Bernie is not a socialist. And I don't think Joe Biden even thinks Bernie's a socialist. But this kind of stuff makes it really difficult for Bernie Sanders supporters to vote for you because essentially what you're saying is, I'm chasing the Republican vote because I'm assuming that I have the progressive Bernie Sanders vote by the nuts and they're going to have to vote for me, or I just don't care whether or not they vote for me. So they care so little about whether or not they're going to vote that it's pretty hard, to convince a Bernie supporter to vote for them. And so, it makes it pretty difficult to do. He's willing to just shaft Bernie Sanders and his supporters like that. I don't know how Bernie Sanders feels about this. The reason why Bernie Sanders went so soft on Joe during the primary is because they were actually buddies in the Senate. Joe Biden is pretty well known for having these personal relationships with people, and that personal relationship with Bernie Sanders probably cost him the election, along with his horrific political strategies, like the one namely I just told you earlier. But this is going to make it difficult for some Bernie Sanders voters to support Joe Biden, especially when he's just so openly down to just shaft, him and his supporters like that.